Something quiet is moving to the American restaurant business. Most people inside it would rather you never heard it out loud. 12 familiar household names are now sliding hard toward the edge in 2026. I have personally watched these brands for a very long time now. This is not a dip that bounces back next quarter. Rooms that used to hum on a Friday night are going dark. Some chains shut their doors in waves. Others sit buried under debt. No menu price can look. A few have nearly fallen off the map entirely. And the timing is no accident. This many giants do not stumble in the same year by chance. Here's what almost every breakdown gets wrong. You've been told the cause is simple. Customers got tired. Wallets got tight. The economy did the rest. That story is comfortable. It is also mostly false. You did not kill these restaurants. You looked at the plate. You ran the numbers in your head. You walked. That is not disloyalty. That is arithmetic. You kept your end of the deal. You worked. You paid. You paid. You showed up. The deal stopped keeping its end. And under those weed crack lots sits a much colder engine than the economy. Nobody on the inside wants to name it out loud. Most of these collapses were not bad luck at all. They were built on purpose. So let me take you through the wreckage, one brand at a time, and I will show you who actually pulled the trigger. Number 12, Boston Market. We opened with a name people once held close. Less than 10 years ago, this was an empire. More than 1,200 locations across the country. Warm rotisserie chicken under the lamp. Soft mashed potatoes. Buttery corn. A home-cooked plate you did not have to cook. For millions of tired families, it was the easy stop on the drive home. Then the floor dropped out. From that peak, the chain caved in a way that is hard to look at. Today, fewer than 30 restaurants still serve nationwide. Read that again. More than 97% of the empire is simply gone. Whole states cannot claim a single open door. Even in Massachusetts, where the brand was born, the last door closed for good in 2025. What stings is the manner of the fall. It did not shade politely. It vanished in bursts. People drove out for dinner and found the entrance chained. The sign still hung overhead. The windows sat black. The lot sat empty. Behind that silence were unpaid suppliers, landlord fights, and a trail of complaints from old staff. Listen how the regulars described this slide. They saw it before any headline did. The same order cost a little more each visit. The portion quietly shrank. The chicken drifted dry. One night it was $11 and change. The next time, more money, less food. After a few rounds of that exact pattern, they simply stopped coming in. And once a regular stops, they rarely ever come back. The old formula was honest. Comfort food. Fair price. No fuss. Then grocery stores started selling rotisserie birds for under $5. The whole reason to drive over evaporated. Why on earth pay more money for less of the very same thing? Roll past one of those old buildings today. Weeds are pushing right up through the cracked asphalt. This is not just one struggling restaurant having a rough year. It is the clearest early warning on this entire list. A brand can own its corner for decades. It can hold the name people trust. None of that is armor. It still gets erased the moment the value walks out the back. 97% is not a slump. It is a vanishing act. Number 11. Red Lobster. Almost everyone has slid into one of those booths at least once. For decades, this was the affordable seafood night. Free cheddar biscuits, snow crab, a warm room for a birthday or an anniversary. It was the default when you wanted lobster without torching your bank account. And in 2024, it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It carried more than $1 billion in debt, a figure laid out in public court filings. It was forced to close nearly 100 restaurants in one brutal round. People love to blame the endless strip promotion. A short-term deal got nailed to the menu for good. The price set around $20 while food costs were already climbing. And yes, that hurt, but that is the surface. The surface is a distraction. Look at what happened to the bones. The buildings it ran in were sold off, then leased right back. Now the chain paid rent on land it used to own outright. So with that, you take a company that owns this ground, you sell the ground, you pocket the cash. Then you hand the company a rep bill it never had. The debt did not appear because people ate too much shrimp. It was loaded on. Watch for this pattern. It repeats down the whole list. Money comes in. It buys a healthy brand. It strips the assets. It pulls the profit out the top. It leaves the shell to drown. By the time the doors close, the engineers have already won. They were never really running a seafood restaurant. They were taking one apart for parts. The kitchen was just the thing standing on top of the real prize. And the real prize was the land underneath it. What is left for you is a smaller biscuit. Frozen product where fresh used to be. Higher prices. Thinner portions. Regulars come back after a couple of years away. The soup and salad that came with the meal are simply gone. Prices up across the board. The whole thing stripped to the studs. You feel the change the second you walk back in the door. It does not feel like a celebration anymore. It feels like a company being quietly measured for its coffin while the lights are somehow still on. Number 10. TGI Fridays. This one lived on loud Friday nights. Glazed ribs. Loaded potato skins. Bright cocktails. Staff clapping through a birthday song. It was not selling food. It was selling the feeling of the weekend. Heading into 2026, it is still deep in the hole. The chain went through Chapter 11 bankruptcy starting in 2024. Behind it sat tens of millions in debt. The closures rolled out in waves. From hundreds of restaurants, only about 80 still operate across the country today. A fast, ugly drop in under 2 years. The trap was a trap of the middle. It chased a younger crowd and lost the regulars who actually came. Prices climbed. The plate shrank and dulled. The menu tried to be everything and landed on nothing. The room itself feels frozen around 2007. Same tired colors. Same decor. Tight. Like a museum of a decade nobody asked to revisit. Here's where the regulars turned. One longtime customer named the exact moment it broke. They ordered. They asked for the breadstick that always came with the meal. They were told it was no longer part of the deal. Two sides became one. The price did not move. That is the whole collapse in one small humiliation. You pay full restaurant prices. You taste the freezer. Then they take the breadstick. The thought lands hard. This is not worth it. Now the big rooms sit quiet even at peak hours. Ask yourself the simple question they finally. What exactly am I paying full price for here? The decor is dated. The portion is thinner. The breadstick is gone. The neon still glows over a joy that drained out the back. Number 9. Applebee's. Not long ago, you could find one in nearly every neighborhood and off nearly every exit. Its whole promise lived in that neighborhood grill and bar line. Familiar. Best. Affordable. The stop after the game. The comfortable, nowhere special dinner for the family. Heading into 2026, it is shrinking, but quietly. Its parent company has closed locations in ways and signaled more cuts ahead. Not loud, dramatic shutdowns. One restaurant at a time. One block at a time. In a hush that feels worse than a bang. The deeper wound is identity. Applebee stopped knowing what it was for. Prices jumped to cover rising costs. The food never earned the jump. And here is a complaint heard more than any other. Folks who went constantly describe a strange thing. The plate tastes a year old, frozen, then microwaved back to life. Meanwhile, the price still reads like fresh cooking from that morning. That is the betrayal compressed into a single sentence. Nobody minds paying a fair price for real cooking. People mind paying real cooking prices for a tray that got reheated from a bag. A regular is not stupid. They can taste the difference between a kitchen and a microwave. They can taste a bag that got cut open and warmed. Once that taste registers, a spell breaks for good. And it never quite comes back. Drive your old streets now. The sign still stands over an empty lot. The glow is fading. A spot that felt like everyone's corner restaurant now feels like a faintly embarrassing memory. Existing is not enough. When the value stops, even the most familiar name gets left behind. Number 8. Hooters. 2 decades ago, this was a real phenomenon. Crispy, spicy wings, cold beer, football on every screen, the famous uniforms. The whole formula drove aggressive expansion and made it a fixed stop for a certain crowd. By 2026, it is shutting down. Locations are going dark across Florida, Texas, Virginia, and more. Revenue is sliding hard. The real reason is not the kitchen. It is the model itself. Gen Z and the younger millennials have walked away almost entirely. They read the concept as dated, forced, out of step with how they live. Meanwhile, the older regulars who filled those seats in the 80s and 90s have families now. Kids now. No desire to bring them through that door. So the crowd thinned. The company did what struggling chains always do. It cut. And it cut the one thing it could not afford to lose. Wing quality used to give a regular an honest excuse to defend the place. Now it runs dry, underseasoned, clearly pulled from a freezer. But the price is held. Notice that. Notice how often on this list the food gets worse while the bill stays exactly the same. That is the tell, every single time. It is a company quietly harvesting its own reputation instead of feeding and rebuilding. And when the food drops, well, the price holds. Even the faithful run out of reasons. Hooters clung too long to a formula the world moved past. Think about the trap of that. The concept itself aged out from under the brand. You cannot discount your way back from that. You cannot run a promotion on a feeling that no longer fits the room. A brand that once felt untouchable is quietly slipping off the map. Number 7. KFC. It is strange to type this name onto a list like this. Fried chicken itself is booming right now. Chick-fil-A lines wrap the building from open to close. Raising Cane's expands at full speed, and the old king is losing badly. The colonel's face still hangs on the sign. The ground underneath it used to belong to him. Sales keep slipping quarter after quarter. That is a bitter thing to watch. Almost everyone carries a warm memory here. A hot bucket. That secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. For a lot of families, it was Sunday food. A reward after the game. The thing kids waited a whole week for. Some still remember driving clear across town as a child just to get it. They treated it like the biggest event of the month. Now the experience has changed, and it is the regulars telling the story, not the company. People pay for a 4-piece box and open it to find 2 tiny wing pieces. One longtime customer put it plainly. The last bucket arrived drowning in salt and grease. A headache hit before they even finished. Another walked in, caught the smell of the old oil, turned around and left without ordering. Step into a lot of these rooms and the place feels stuck around 2005. Damn. Tired. The menu's bloated. It reaches for everything and nails nothing. Now look at the competitors who picked one thing and ran. Chick-fil-A built itself on chicken sandwiches. Raising Cane sells chicken tenders and basically nothing else. One thing done well, every time, in every store. KFC still tries to carry the whole table. The quality wobbles from one location to the next. And here's the deeper turn the old guard is missing. More people now steer clear of food fried in cheap industrial oils and packed with additives. They ask harder questions about what is on the plate, so the brand loses the health-conscious crowd and the value crowd at once. The excuse used to be that it tasted good. Trip that away. Now nothing pulls you back through that door. A rundown room. An expensive box of 2 wings. No thanks. Number 6. Cracker Barrel. For a long time, this is one of the warmest stops out there. Rustic wood inside. A fireplace. Rocking chairs on the porch. A southern menu of fried chicken, hot biscuits, and peach cobbler. It was Sunday breakfast. The road trip break. The gathering place. For some people, it was almost sacred. One traveler said it best. If heaven had a first exit, there would be a Cracker Barrel waiting right inside the gate. That is how much warmth this brand once held. In 2026, it is under heavy pressure, shrinking, closing some locations, pausing expansion across many regions. Costs are up. Traffic is drifting down. A menu heavy on fried food pushed some people toward lighter choices. Higher prices made families think twice about how often they stopped in. But the deepest cut came from a decision at the top. Reaching for younger customers, leadership tried to modernize hard. They reworked the interior. They updated the logo. They quietly stripped out the very symbols that made the place feel like the place. The rocking chairs, the antiques, the old country store warmth. All traded for something flatter and more modern. And here's the result, clean and brutal. They lost the one thing that was actually their advantage. The loyal crowd came for the nostalgia. They felt pushed out and let down. The younger crowd they chased already had a dozen trendier options and never really showed. One viewer summed it up in a sharp line. The company chases new trends while wrecking the exact thing that made customers love it. Folks who ate there weekly for years describe walking out and never returning. The building they loved stopped being the building they loved. They did not leave because times changed. They left because the one reason to come was deliberately erased. When this brand pulls back, people lose more than a place to eat. They lose a room tied to family mornings and long drives. A small piece of the country tucked inside a hectic week. The lesson lands again. A brand can feel safe on nostalgia for years. It still starts to shake the second it ditches its own identity, all to chase a crowd that was never coming. Number 5. Outback Steakhouse. Less than 10 years ago, this was a default for a special dinner, a promotion, a birthday, and an anniversary. The dim, warm room. You smell off the grill. The giant crispy onion that meant you were treating yourself after a hard stretch. By 2026, it is sliding into a cost nightmare. In early 2025, the parent company Bloomin' Brands abruptly shut 41 restaurants. These were not weak stores in forgotten corners. Many had been steady earners for years. The reason comes down to one number that does not buy. A family of 4 sits down for dinner. The bill now runs from $160 to $220. And this is where the people watching start doing the math out loud. They are right to. Think about what that number means for the family this is built for. You did everything correctly. You worked the week. You saved for the occasion. You wanted one nice night. The bill for a single family dinner lands where a couple of days of groceries used to. The famous onion turned into a second problem. That one appetizer carries close to 2,000 calories. Desaturated fat rise right along with it. So you hand over more than $180 for a heavy, greasy meal with shrinking portions. A regret arises twice. Once for the wallet, once for the body. Or you grab fresh ingredients. You cook at home. You put something better and lighter on the table, and it costs half as much. More families are quietly choosing that second path, and they are not settling when they do it. They are taking back control of one line on the budget. That is not a sad story at all when you really look at it. It is a smart one. It is a family deciding on its own terms what its money is worth. A chain once stood for a special night out for ordinary people. Now does living proof. The price has drifted miles from what lands on the plate. Number 4. Starbucks. Remember when people called this the third place? A spot wedged between home and work. Millions spilled the morning cup into the rhythm of a day. A warm latte in hand. A short pocket of calm. A corner with the wireless on to chip away at some work. Now the empire is paying for years of pushing the price up and up. A medium can easily run more than $7 or $8. The speed and the feel of the visit are not what they were. Loyal customers run the same quiet calculation everyone on this list keeps running. Coffee at home is cheaper, often better, and faster. Compare the two side by side once. After that, it is hard to unsee. Good beans at home cost a fraction of one daily cup, and you get more than one mug out of it. Even the loyal ones show up mainly when a code or a deal lands in the app. Sit with what that means. A daily ritual has shrunk into an occasional treat. People only walk in when the price drops. That tells you the magic is already gone. What is really slipping is the special status. When the everyday luxury stops feeling worth it, people drift toward the local shop or the fast-growing independent down the street. A lot of Starbucks from rooms feel quieter now. Their waits feel longer. The staffing feels thinner. People once lined up and gladly paid a premium to be there. Now the brand is sliding toward nice to have instead of need to have. That is the whole pattern in a single cup. Even the giants who owned a daily habit start to wobble the moment people tighten up. The moment they ask out loud, what am I actually getting back for this? Number 3. Chipotle. A few years back, this was the fast casual phenomenon. People happily paid more for a heavy burrito built from fresh ingredients sourced with care. Long lines. Guacamole mashed by hand. The sense that you're eating a notch healthier than regular fast food. By 2026, the picture has flipped. A single meal can now climb somewhere between $18 and $25 for one person. One burrito costs what a whole sit-down meal used to. So a serious question pushes forward. Is this still worth it? And then comes the part that stings. The portions are visibly shrinking. The rice and the beans get scooped lighter while the price drifts up quarter after quarter. People walk out still hungry. They paid restaurant money for a portion closer to a child's plate. Longtime regulars say the quality has gotten patchy. Some days the rice is hard. The meat is chewy. The guacamole is thin and small. 3 values built this place. Fresh. In the style. Plain. Clean. Generous. Now they are the exact 3 things people quietly doubt. and it is caught in a squeeze with no good side. It cannot win on price against cheap fast food. The dollar menu always wins that fight, and it no longer feels worth it next to a real restaurant. The sit-down meal always wins that one, so it floats in the middle. The middle is exactly where brains on this list go to die. Newer competitors keep rising with the same idea at lower prices and fuller bowls. So the weekly regular becomes the discount-only visitor, or just grabs the ingredients and builds the same bowl at home for a fraction. The lesson repeat. Let the price sprint ahead of the value, then even a beloved brand gets dropped without a second thought. Number 2. Kroger. Now I am going to break the pattern on purpose. This one is not a restaurant at all. That is exactly the point. It is a grocery giant. Millions of families hit it every single week. Meat. Produce. A prescription refill. A tank of gas. For a lot of folks in the suburbs and small towns, this is a genuine lifeline. It anchors the whole week. And I'm putting it here for a reason. It proves the squeeze reaches far past eating out. It is everywhere. The same machine that hollowed out the restaurants is now pressing on the grocery aisle. Across the chain, supermarkets are quietly going dark in waves. The locations that no longer pencil out get cut. The cost pressure comes from every direction at once. Wages, refrigeration, the logistics of moving food across the country, even the price of fighting debt. The grocery bill keeps climbing while the household wallet keeps tightening. So people split their trips. They hunt for coupons. They switch to the store brand. They cut the impulse buys clean out. A cart once landed near $150. Now families fight to keep it under $100. But the part that should worry you most comes later. A store in a rural area or an outer suburb shuts its doors. It creates a food desert on the spot. The drive to the next supermarket doubles, sometimes triples. People lose gas, time, and access just to buy the basics for dinner. And the same family already squeezed at the restaurant gets squeezed again at the source. The pressure does not let up when you leave the dining room. It follows you into the parking lot. It follows you down the grocery aisle. Kroger is still enormous, but this pullback is a flare going straight up. Even the most essential food chains no longer feel as solid as they used to. That should make all of us pay closer attention. Number 1. Red Robin. The top of this list is the clear signal that an era in casual dining is ending. Anyone who grew up here remembers that bouncy Red Robin? Yum. The brand stood for generosity. Thick burgers. A bright, loud room. Baskets of bottomless fries arriving hot and full. It was where you took the kids to celebrate after the ball game. A dinner full of noise where the bills stayed in the background. By 2026, the cheer has flipped into an eerie quiet. Across the country, hundreds of those rooms are going dark. And Red Robin proves the cruelest version of the whole story. So it earns the top spot. To protect the margin, the prices went up. In return, the burgers got smaller, the meat got weaker, the service got slower. An affordable family meal used to be the whole point. That idea came apart right there in your hands. And here is the feeling that finished it. The customer stopped feeling welcome and started feeling processed. Measured. Squeezed. Thawed. Charged for the very last dollar. A tip line waits at the end to push the total higher still. That is the emotional core of this whole collapse. People will forgive a price increase. They understand costs go up. What they will not forgive is the feeling underneath it. The sense of being turned into a line item on someone else's profit sheet. The sense of being charged for the welcome, not just the food. The brand built on family joy finally has to surrender, and the message travels far past one company. The easy, comfortable, convenient night out is officially closing up shop. A few corners still glow with that Redbird sign. The warmth behind it has gone cold and quiet. So step back from all 12 and look at the real shape. This was never 12 unlucky accidents that landed in the same year. Most of these stories share one skeleton. A brand that worked got bought. It got loaded with debt it never asked for. Its real estate got sold out from under it. The profit got pulled to the top while the plate got cheaper and the price got higher. Then the shell finally cracked. By then, the people who built the scheme had already cashed out and moved on. You were told it was your fault for getting tired of eating out. It was not your fault. Read the shape one more time. Buy the brand. Load the debt. Sell the building. Pull the cash. Walk away from the wreck. You were just the last person in the room still paying attention. But I will not leave you standing in an empty parking lot. There is a more useful truth hiding in the same data. Not everything is dying. The places getting hollowed out traded their value for a spreadsheet. The places that kept their promise are doing just fine. People keep asking the obvious question. Why is the chain like In-N-Out not in any financial trouble? The answer is not a mystery. It runs a tight, simple menu. It does a few things and does them right. And it actually delivers what it sells every visit without the bait and switch. The same goes for the other spots people still drive out of their way for. The ones where the food and the service genuinely hold up. The crowd did not vanish into thin air. It moved toward honesty. A narrow menu done well beats a giant menu done cheap. Every single time, in every single market. The customers settled that argument a long time ago. Customers proved it with their feet in their wallets. So here's what all of this is really teaching us. You are not powerless in this story. You were never the problem in it. Run the math the way you already do in the grocery aisle. A rotisserie bird off the shelf for a few dollars. A salad you throw together. A drink poured at home. Right there you've beaten most of these chains on price, on quality, and on call. Cook a couple of meals on a Sunday. Stretch them across the whole week. Build one sauce. Turn it into 3 dinners. Plan around what your family actually likes. The work is small. The savings are not. Eat where no counterweights to guilt you into a forced tip or a surprise fee. Put your money toward the local family place that cuts corners on nothing. Not the corporate room that cuts corners on everything. None of that is settling for less. That is you refusing on purpose to overpay for less. And there is a real quiet kind of power sitting inside that choice. The fall of these 12 is a bell ringing for the entire service industry. The message could not be simpler. For years, people swallowed premium prices for frozen food, shrinking portions, and a shrug at the counter. That era is over. Loyalty did not die. It just changed addresses. People no longer stay loyal to a logo hollowed out from the inside for somebody else's profit. That kind of loyalty was always going to break. They stay loyal to real value wherever they find it. So the real question is not which chain goes dark next. There will always be a next one on the list. The deeper question is whether the companies running these brands snap awake in time, before the public erases them from memory completely. Tell me down in the comments where you have already stopped spending your money for good. And tell me where you still hand it over gladly, with no regret at all. I read every single reply that comes in, and I will see you again in the very next one.